Okay, so the wipers aren't working, and we're going to test the wiper circuit. We're basically going to test the motor. And what I've done here, I'm just going to clip into the red and yellow wire on this connector, which I've pulled out of here for the wiper. It goes to the wiper motor. What I have here, so you can see this, I just took a little clip here and bent one leg up on it. And I'm going to put that into the socket in that red and yellow location. And then connect one end of my digital voltmeter, which is on DC volts. I'm going to hook that to the little piece that I have up, and the other end to ground. And then we'll turn the wipers on and see if we have voltage going to the wiper. And see if you can see that, the light reflecting off it. We're going to turn it on and see if we have voltage going to the motor. The wipers are turned on, and we have 12 volts going there. So it's pretty much definitive that it's a bad motor. Okay, so it looks like we do have a bad wiper motor. So we're going to cover in this video how to replace it. It's located, of course, up inside this housing. There's a fair amount of disassembly that's going to be needed to get at that motor. So the first thing we're going to do is pull off the blades, both blades. Let's take this cover off here, and then unbolt this. Get them both out of the way, and then we can start removing a series of screws. There's 1, 2, there's one back here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 of them, and then this cover can come off. Okay, this is 15 millimeters. Okay, before we pull these out, let's mark them. Just a dab of some white out here, so that I can go back in the same orientation. So now we'll just tap this lightly with a hammer. Off it comes. Okay, next up, looks like we've got some T25 screws to take out. 1, 2, 3, looks like about 7 or 8 of them. So we'll get all those out of the way. And just make this one, don't need a right angle screwdriver over here on the end. Okay, these Phillips over here on the ends don't need to come out. You see we have this type of fastener here, and this pushes this way. And these are all along here. There's another one here. Okay, so these are just little keepers. I just press down over there. They aren't really nuts that they put on here. But you can get them off still. I've got a 16 millimeter on here. Some of them pop right off, and some of them you gotta kind of turn. So, got all these off now. There's one there, one there. Then they should lift up. This piece lifts straight up. This windshield, or this windshield wiper top cover. Now we can see what we're up against as far as getting the other part out. Okay, there's the wiper tubing. We'll have to disconnect. Okay, here's a washer line. Just twist it off here. I'm going to get the entire lovely piece out of the way. Okay, let's look this over. Looks like we're in for some bolt removal here. This one, this one, this one, this one. These larger ones that are bolting to the framework here. This one, this one, this one. Okay, I'm going to disconnect the battery. You know, this is, I guess, optional. Whenever I'm working around anything electrical, even when I unplug anything electrical, I just like to disconnect the battery. I know this is just a wiper motor here, but yeah, I feel better already. Okay, this is just a drain. water debris that builds up in there, runs it off. And there's one over on the other side as well, way over here. So that one's a little harder to reach, of course. Actually, it's going to be easier maybe when we unplug the wiring connector there. So in this style, you get under here with a screwdriver. Pull up on that locking tab. It's like squeeze there, pull it out. Okay, so I'm going to get behind here and get this other drain out. Alright, I guess everything connected to the bottom part of this pan, I'm going to call it. Housing pan, whatever you want to call it, is now disconnected. So now it's just going to be a matter of taking all the bolts out. These 5 upper ones, 10mm. Wouldn't hurt to give these a squirt to some pattern. It looks like there's some rust on them. Yeah, they're coming off pretty easily. I'm going to put a little lube on them when I put little anti-seize on them when I put them back in now. These are 13mm. Looks like there's 6 of them. I got a 3-inch extension on here, which I think should be plenty. And then there's one way over in the corner over here. So far I'm getting by just with the 3-inch without any extra. These aren't worth much. There's one over here. So now that these are broken free, simple matter, just turning them out. Hey, and if you drop them, they're just going to fall into the bottom of this wiper pan here. Okay, so we turned all 6 of these out. They're all the same length, so you don't have to mark them. And now, let's see about lifting this out. Got to lift a little bit to get it off of those studs on top. I'm trying not to mangle anything, such as the brake reservoir. Out this thing comes. First thing we're going to do is remove these brackets. This is a 10mm. Some 10mm nuts that are sitting on some studs. And we'll take all 4 of these out. I mark these brackets too, so they go back in the same place. Once we pull this screw up, then they should come right off the little catches that are on here. Alright. And now we slip this up over the nut. And then it comes off of there. I'll mark them. Like I said, I got this one marked too. Probably can't see it. It's also marked on here. And put them back where they were. We're going to get the proceed to take the other 3 off. Okay, those 4 brackets are off. Next mission is going to be take off these 13mm bolts that are bolting this whole mechanism to this pan here. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those. So we'll get at those. And just use an old 3-inch extension. Now these have been kept out of the weather, pretty well sealed in. So they're easy to take out. Yeah, there's just absolutely no clearance under that motor to do it any other way. Yeah, these are so easy to turn out. You just break them and then turn them off with your fingers. And there it is. Not really too bad. As for the wiring, these basically just unplug. 1 with 2, the other with 3, no confusion. Set it out of the way. Okay, now we can flip this fellow back over. And the actual bolts that mount the motor are right there. There's also a nut under here. It's going to have to come out. that seats in the linkage. You know, to keep the linkage in the same orientation so we don't have a problem when we put this back together, I've made a mark here along in several places. And I'm also going to do is put a vice grip pliers on here, try to hold this linkage still while I break this nut loose here. Okay, so I'm going to try to clamp this. It's good and tight. Alright, let's go back to our nut here. This turns out to be a 13 millimeter. Now it still wants to turn. I think I'm going to try to do is give this the old tap treatment. It needs a shock. Yeah, I did it. A lot of times you can do that, just break it with a hammer when it's got it needs a little shock action there to get it loose. So we're going to try to turn this out. It looks like breaking it loose first and then turning it after we get these 10 millimeter because it's going to top out on there. So we'll get the 310 millimeter motor mount bolt first. Next. This one's a little bit at an angle. Looks like we're going to get it though. Yeah, the weight of the motor's not causing a little trouble here. So we'll hold it with one hand. This last one. Yeah, we should be able to turn this nut out. Looks like we're just stuck here a little bit now. Probably a little tap with a hammer. Take care of the rest of this. Just lightly. There it is. There's our guy. We're moving to our install now, so we've got our motor ready to go. Slip it in. Now make sure your arm's levers are in the same orientation they were before. Otherwise you're going to be in for a surprise when you try to hook this up. Okay, that looks good right there. So we've got to get our nut in between here, which is a little tricky. I just want to get it caught on the threads and then get started. Get started on the other three. Okay, I've got that nut started. So now I'll get the 3 motor mounting bolts in here. Okay, snug them up good. Okay, looks like everything's oriented the way it was. Double check to see if I can get this any tighter. Yeah, a little bit. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's flip this back over. And plug our wires back in. Okay, they're in there. Now we can turn it back. Set it down over the mounting studs, which fit neatly on there. And remount that hardware. So all that's left now is to put our 4 brackets back in. And remember, we numbered these so they come back in the same orientation. It's number 3. Here's number 2. Okay, that's 2 there. And lift this weather strip up to slip it over the... And there's number 2. So I'm not going to show all these. Okay, with these all snugged up, we can put this assembly back in the vehicle. Remember, this has to hang on these 4 studs, these brackets there. Gotta slip it underneath. Okay, there it is. And then there are 6 of these 13mm bolts that hold this pan for the most part. Having freshly taken this out, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in putting this back together. It's all fairly fresh in the mind and fairly simple. Okay, next comes this wiper cover. Before you get in this all the way, remember the washer hose back through the grommet that's on there. Put it all the way back through. As it'll connect it up right away. And then this should just sit right down on here. Got to get it over this wiper stud for the wiper there. And get the weather strip kind of out of the way and let it sit down. It's really kind of surprising how much more room you have to work when you get this out of here. Making a number of jobs on this car somewhat palatable. What we have next are these little keepers. Just going to call them keepers because they truly aren't anything as exotic as or substantial as a bolt. But you just press those back down over there. They just basically hold this down without applying absolutely no torque to them whatsoever. So there's 3 more. We'll put those in. Start putting the torque. 6 of these back in. One thing I should note: watch for the weather stripping up here, because it can get a little hosed up. Okay, so we'll finish up the other 6, the other few that are left here. Okay, wiper blades are going on next. Here's where our little mark is going to come in handy. Put these back in where they were. And the 15mm nut. And the 15mm nut. Cover. Repeat on the other side. Okay, don't forget about your drains. One on this side, matching one on the other side. Plug in the wiper motor. Okay, we're plugged back in. Let's test the wipers. Okay, we're back up and running. Thanks for watching this video. I'd like to point out in the upper right hand corner I have a link to a donation tab. I'd really appreciate it if you could consider doing that if you got something out of this video. Help you save money, give you some ideas. Thanks again for watching.